Guys, today on the Alphabet podcast, I'm super excited. I've got an actual hero of mine from childhood, but I just need to remind you guys to subscribe to the channel. It's still trying to grow. So if you like the content that you're seeing, just subscribe and that will keep you updated. I've just got to keep going with this because I'm just like a kid at Christmas here. I'm going to start with this wonderful woman's own words. So guys, growing up, I was always told you shouldn't be doing this and you shouldn't be doing that. And girls can't do this and girls shouldn't be doing that. And you're never going to be able to do that. And I was like, I can, I want to, and I can. Now, my guest today is quite simply a history maker. Through a long career, she's played for Millwall, Fulham, Arsenal, and Chelsea, won 5 Premier League titles, 7 FA Cups with 3 different teams, 6 Premier League Cups, 1 UEFA Women's Cup, which is the Champions League. So those of you that don't understand how women's football works, 65 caps for England, the first black woman to captain England, the first lioness to go to 2 World Cups, and now as a manager, continuing in that trend of firsts, the first female manager to win a cup competition with a male senior team, and that's as the manager of Peckham Town. She's also an MS ambassador and an amazing, inspirational human being. Born and bred in Peckham, Mary Rose Phillip, history maker. Welcome to the Alphabet podcast.
Hey, Ali, thank you very much for the introduction. Oh, Mary, that sounds amazing, man.
Wow.
Is that actually me you're talking about there?
Yeah, listen, your accolades took a whole page, Mary. I was like, I can't believe it. I mean, I was
mad. when you're talking out and you hear it loud and you're thinking, wow.
Yeah, you're so humble, Mary. That's why I think that you have that reaction every single time. But actually, how does it feel just hearing those accolades just read back to you?
It's mad. I just said to you, it's just like, is this the same person? You know, is this my reflection that I can see? And like, you're talking about me here. I've done that. It's just great. Yeah, it's just great to be a part of history and just to be doing things, man.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I'm so starstruck here. I've got to say thank you, Bianca, for making this possible. I know you'll be tuned in, Bianca and Carol.
Yeah, big up BNC, man. Big them up.
Yeah, big them up. Yeah. Oh God, guys, we're just gonna get straight into it because there's so much I just want to just extract from your story, Mary. It's just so inspirational. And like I say, you've been a hero to me for a long time, but I'm hoping by the end of this podcast, you'll be a hero to so much more people. And that is not me exaggerating, guys. So we're just going to start. Tell me about growing up in Peckham, because I know it's something that means so much to you, and how you discovered football.
Oh, Peckham's my hometown, you know. It's like you just said, like I've grown up here. So from birth to a big woman, you know, it's been my playground. You know, I've seen the changes, ins and outs of it. You know, my dad's family come here originally from St. Lucia when they come here. And like the family grew in Peckham, and obviously we're still here. Like me and my dad and all my family are still here. And obviously some of us are branched further out, but you know, we're still stuck in here. And I love it. You know, I just love that home feel. You know, when I was growing up, you know, I couldn't walk more than a few meters down the road without people knowing who I was. No, oh, that's Tony's daughter, oh, that's Kath's daughter. So my mum and dad always knew that we were looked after. We were always seen, and I couldn't go home. I was saying I was someone other than, because they would know where I was because people knew who you were.
Yeah, it was them days, isn't it?
Yeah, you didn't need a mobile phone. You know, it's just how it is. Your parents knew where you was.
Yeah.
And that's just that nice feel to know that people are looking back at it as a child, you're thinking, oh, my days, people look at me, I can't do nothing. But as an adult, you're looking, thinking, it's kind of nice that people have recognised and they can see, and it makes your parents comfortable to know that they can let you out, know you're safe, and that people are looking out for you.
Yeah. And it's a little bit like, I think that's what we're kind of missing these days, that sense of community where, you know, your kids are out there and, you know, they're safe because there's other adults in the community that can report back or can, you know, take that role as the older or the parent in the absence of the parent. And it is that community feel that I got growing up in New Cross, just down the road, that community feel like it takes a whole village to raise a child type of thing.
Literally. And yeah, that is definitely missing. You know, so much has happened throughout the years, and like all families are kind of breaking and splitting, and they're just small little bundles now. They're not that big wide, like people say, unless it's blood related, they're not family. When I was growing, blood related or not, anyone you see pass, you know, that's auntie and uncle, man. That is just family.
Yeah. And you mentioned, you know, your dad being from a St. Lucian background, but I also read that, you know, you have Irish heritage as
Yeah, my
well.
mum's Irish. Yeah, so I'm St. Lucian Irish, you know. I just full credit my mum and dad. Now, I can't imagine what they went through living in England back in the 60s,
Yeah,
getting married, growing a family.
yeah,
You know, they sheltered us from the outside world, so to speak, all the races and that was around us, and they grew us into the people we are today.
yeah,
And full credit to them, right or wrong, shielding us from it. But to me, it helped me grow. And I didn't grow up looking at color. No,
yeah,
I just grew up looking at people,
yeah.
and we were able to do what we've done. And you know, that's full credit for not focusing us on the negativity in the world around us.
Yeah, and that's important. And you mentioned us, so I know that you have siblings, Mary. And I
Yeah,
know you're one of your siblings, Jackie, even though she
yeah.
didn't remember because it has been 30 years. I actually had to go back and be like, it's 30 years that we played in the same team over at Lambeth. But you having loads of siblings and even having a sister that played football as probably one of your first role models.
We kind of played football together. You know, I probably linked her into playing football more than she linked
Oh,
me into playing football.
oh,
But yeah, it's something we did grow up, and it's something we all did together and just linked up with all our friends
mm,
locally. I mean, as you know, in New Cross, no matter who you were, no matter what end you come from, if you liked football at some point, you'd always end up at Burgess or the little
yeah,
playground in Monson
yeah,
or that at Pilgrim's Way playing football at a weekend and or even Brimerton.
yeah.
And like I said, it's that community vibe that everyone just got together and played.
Yeah, and you mentioned Millwall. I went to Monson Primary School, and I know Monson. The lads from Millwall would come over and give us coaching. So actually, growing up as a young girl in the 80s, it wasn't that strange to see other girls playing football. It was just something that we were culturalized to do in that particular area. We played football with the boys. It's just what we did.
Yeah, now we've done that. The boys let us play football, but it would for adults, it wasn't right for girls to be playing
Yeah,
football. You know, as you mentioned, I was constantly told girls shouldn't be doing this, girls shouldn't be doing that. And I enjoyed playing football with the boys. I enjoyed playing football with my sisters, you know, going out, getting dirty, you know,
yeah,
clean up. It was a great fun. You didn't have to fuss about too many things. And you
mm,
just ran around, had fun, you laughed, you joked, you went home, the day started again.
yeah,
But you were constantly told that you shouldn't be doing these little things. Yes, your pathway had to be kind of you wanted to get education and you needed certain things, but I couldn't understand why I couldn't have this fun side of things as well.
yeah,
Um, and I kind of took the onus on that. So not being ignorant to it or not trying to be unruly, I
hmm,
just wanted to do things I really enjoyed. And like my mum and dad allowed me to play football and do stuff like that. As long as I did focus on my education, I did do my schooling. I
okay,
was also allowed to do my BMXing, you know, my karate, my football. I was allowed to do all
wow.
the kind of things. So, you know, it was great growing up. It was great being a kid then.
Yeah, it was actually great being a kid. But what age did you realize you were really good, Mary? Because there must have been an age where you're playing with kids your own age and you're starting to excel.
I didn't, you know, it's just one of I just enjoyed playing football. It didn't matter who I played with. I
Hmm.
just enjoyed playing football. The people around me enjoyed playing football. And that is how we done. That's how we went. You know, I didn't care if it was the kids my own age or even if they're big boys. I'd call them big boys then, but they were like the big 18, 19-year-old men that used to
Hmm.
play football with over the pen just over road from my mum's. That used to kick the ball around with them, you know, as long as I weren't getting knocked down and I was going through the fight, you know, it was all good. And that's how it was. And going
Hmm.
through that battle of playing football, and then obviously joining the women's team. Obviously, you stated like the teams I played for, but I can't forget that I started playing at like grassroots, my youth club,
Yes.
which there aren't many nowadays. But I started playing football at Peckham Youth Club, which was in Wandsworth, not Peckham. Um, and I started then, and you had to play with women's teams because you didn't have girls' teams as you
Yeah.
do today. You know, so that was a big women's team I went and joined, and playing against women on a weekend. You know, it
Yeah.
was great fun. So I was no different to any of the women around me. Said my age didn't come into it, so I didn't look at myself being, oh wow, I'm like 14-year
Yeah.
old playing here, playing against big women. It didn't bother me, you know, and
Yeah.
I didn't think, oh, I'm as good as these or I'm better than these. We just all played football and we were all as good as each other. You know,
Yeah.
just you know, certain people looked and thought, you know, this girl can play. We're going to bring into my team. You know, I joined Millwall,
Hmm.
having a few games in the reserve teams as you do. You know, I had the one-off game in the first team playing as a defender, and that's the start of my story as a centre back. You know,
That's the
that's
start of
kind of
your story.
crazy.
She's so humble. Like Mary, you would not get past her. I don't know what you would have had to do to get past Mary. Actually, the England team could actually do with you now, Mary. I feel like the way you played football was kind of ahead of its time.
Oh, thank you for that. But I know the England team are doing well, but it's just how it was. It's all the team around you. Now, I'm not one player in that team. It takes all of us for that team to build and grow. You
Hmm.
know, it's not 1v1 out there, it's 11v11. And if that one of them 11 don't work, the team falls apart. So that everyone else around me pulling together, you know, my role wouldn't have been as straightforward as it was.
And that's really important when you play team sports, because I played football at a similar time to when you did, and it's like what you said, there was no really age groups. So I remember
Yeah,
being 13 and playing against women that were twice, three times my age,
exactly.
and them not taking it easy on me. But
Exactly.
you know, having that little bit of protection, my auntie being the goalkeeper and being like 6 foot tall, but being sometimes a little bit terrified. Like I'm actually playing with big women and then going back to school and playing in the playground with my friends. So it's just that almost as women that at that time playing football, you almost your level was almost brought up because you were as in some cases as good as the boys.
Yeah, without doubt. And that's what helped because, you know,
Mm,
when you're playing with bigger players than you and you're not recognising it, it didn't make no difference to you. So when you come off the football field on a Sunday playing with big women, when you went back to school on a Monday, you stood out from everyone else
yeah,
because you were that bit more stronger, you were a bit more robust. And I think that's what makes you stand out.
yeah. But I became aware of you, Mary, when I was about 13 playing over at Lambeth. And your sister Jackie was in the first team. She was also a very good footballer in her own right. And even looking up to her as someone that was older, and I was a defender. And being told, you know, Mary, you know, they're being so proud of you at Lambeth. Like, Jackie's got this sister Mary. She's doing really well at Millwall, and she's been called up for England. So, what was that like? You know, playing for the Lionesses, which is like you say, a very local team. Growing up in
No,
Peckham, it's just down the road. But like,
no,
wow,
that was cool because obviously growing up, I didn't know there was women's teams out there. I didn't know women played football, so to speak, in teams.
yeah,
And it's not until I kind of got to secondary school that I found out about there being women's teams. And when one Sunday, I remember going home and seeing Millwall playing Doncaster Bells in the
yeah,
FA Cup on Channel 4.
yeah,
And I was like, wow, you know, Millwall Lionesses. And Millwall have a team, that's my local team. They have a
yeah,
women's team. And it's not until I'd done work experience at Millwall that I found out about Lionesses. And from
wow.
there, found out how to join them. And that's where my career at Millwall started.
Wow. So that's almost by accident. It's almost like, you know, if you
I
didn't,
stumbled into it. Yeah, literally stumbled because
wow.
women's teams weren't out there how they are today. You know,
Yeah.
it's probably hard to get into women's teams now still because obviously when I was going to Arsenal and Fulham, I made a phone call to the manager to get in touch with them. I don't think anyone would be able to pick up a phone now and call the Arsenal manager that I'd be interested in coming down. I
Mm,
think there's a whole format you've got to go through to be even get a look out there nowadays. But you know, that's what it was like. And actually knowing there was a women's team and
mm.
then obviously then joining the Lionesses, then breaking into the first team there was amazing. And then obviously at my days at Millwall, breaking into the England team. Oh,
Yes.
it was mad. Breaking into the because I didn't know there was an England team either.
Wow.
Obviously, you didn't know there was an England team. You didn't know there was a national team for women's football. It was crazy,
Wow.
like breaking into that. And obviously, Millwall had a couple of players in there. You had Lou Waller, who played for them, who played for
Yeah.
England
Yeah.
alongside Mellis Millwall. And then breaking the squad while she was still in the squad as well. It's just different gravy. You know, jumping
Mm.
from your team level to
To
international because
international level. But
you're seen as being one of like obviously you have a group of like 30 players going to train to play for international. Only 16 of those players will get called on a day, and I worked into that group of being a player of 16 into a squad, into a group thing, into getting pulled into the actual small squad of 16 for the game,
yeah.
to getting pulled into that 11 to be a starting player. When you
Wow.
think of it like that, it kind of blows your mind because you don't look at it while you're doing it.
Yeah, and
I'm
that's what
just
and
going to
that's
play
and that's kind
football.
of what I'm thinking, because you do hear a lot of players say that while they were in that bubble, they didn't really notice. But now reflecting back, like what was kind of going through your mind, like a call up for England, and you were 18, am I correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, it's just mad. And then obviously my major call up was to the World Cup because obviously my first call up was to a training camp.
Yeah.
And obviously
Where was that
I was
World Cup? Was that
Sweden,
1995?
95. Yeah, in Sweden. Being one of the youngsters going out to there, and for
Wow.
my first major call up for England, it was just like. But for me, it was just still going to play football. But when I look
Wow.
back at it, I'm playing against the best of the best, and I'm being seen as one of those best because that's one of the best that England got to offer to go out and play against against the rest of the world got to offer. It's a World Cup. And it's
Yeah.
not until you sit down and think about it. Like I sit down and think about it now. It's like that is what it actually was like. You're
Wow.
selected to be the best to go and represent your country to play against the best players in the other countries. It's like, yeah, it really doesn't hit
Wow.
home until you sit down and hear yourself talk about what I've achieved and then the little roads that I've taken to get there. Yeah,
Wow. It's
it's
just
achievement.
inspirational to hear you say that, like not even being aware that, like, come on, there was an England women's team, and then
Yeah,
suddenly being just taken from breaking into the Millwall first team. And I know you won the FA Cup for the first time with Millwall as well. So
yeah, definitely.
that must be feel pretty special.
No, that
Yeah.
was amazing. Millwall was like, that is definitely the backbone of my footballing career. My first joining there and getting into the first team, we had a good 3 hard years playing football and fighting relegation for 3 years on a bounce. And the team sticking together, growing together, and just building as a family. And we used to fight for each other on that pitch. And 3 years we had to fight relegation and win it and stay up. And then that fourth year come around, everything kind of gelled together, and we won the FA Cup and the League Cup. No, that's pretty solid considering the
Mm.
3 years prior to that we were fighting relegation, and
Yeah.
we come around and we come through the other side of it. And it just
Wow.
told me what football's all about. It's about a team. It's not about an individual doing something. It's about the team collectively fighting for something and what you can achieve when you're all on that same page.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I'm just getting drawn in. I'm just like, I'm remembering that I'm doing a podcast. But okay. So, yeah, not long after that, Mary. So I'm going to just fast forward just a little bit and just talk about now elite sport and motherhood. Now, tell me if this is true. I read a story about, because not long after you broke into the England squad, how long after was it that you became pregnant with your first child?
I was at the World Cup.
It
So
was
when I
at the
come
World
home from
Cup.
the when I come home from the World Cup, yeah, I went, and obviously I weren't feeling the greatest. I went to the doctors. Yeah, I was 5 months pregnant. So
Wow.
I had the shortest pregnancy in history, which I'm not knocking, because being pregnant for 4 months is then slightly better than being pregnant for 9. But it was solid, at Millwall day. Yeah, I was allowed to still go down there and train. I trained up
Mm.
until I was like 8 months.
Yeah.
I wasn't allowed to get involved in any of the contact stuff, but I could go and do the running, do all the little core stuff they were doing, and be involved in the passing stuff, but nothing, any contact. And then obviously after I had my son in the November, let my body recover from pregnancy, because it's no easy feat out there.
Mm.
Slowly got myself back into the squad and finished that 95 season off. And then the following season,
Wow.
starting fall season, that's when I'm being back in. We done a double, winning the FA Cup and the League Cup.
In the League
And
Cup,
it's
yeah.
so cool because obviously I had my little son with me and all
Oh,
the players. He was around. There's players. I ain't got pictures. I think I've got one picture where
oh,
he's. I can't remember him being on Sally Eads' shoulders after the cup game in the change room.
oh.
Yeah, it was
Like
amazing.
I'm just deep in what you just said, Mary. You're like you came back and finished the season.
Yeah, I
Like,
finished the season, and then obviously the following season come around and we won. We done a double. So
wow, wow. So now I've got this. I have got this image of you using your little son for weightlifting.
no,
But
I did used to do that. Because you pick your kids up all the time, and they do get heavier over time. You don't realise, but I did use. Obviously, he was with me all the time,
yeah,
and I made him a part of my life, because a lot of people said to me when I was pregnant that I can't be a mum and play football, and I couldn't understand in my head, how can I not do two things.
yeah,
Um, and I understand that some people give up their life and when they become parents and they solely focus on the child. I'm not saying I didn't focus on him. I focused on him, but I made him a part of me, of
yeah,
what I did, and that worked for me. It doesn't work for everybody. I'm not saying
yeah.
it does, but it's what worked for me. And making him a part of my life and involving in what I'd done, and that's how it rolled for me.
Ah. But did you ever doubt? Because I know a lot of people said to you that you probably wouldn't come back and be at your best. But did you ever doubt? I doubt
No, I
it.
didn't ever doubt. I was like, this is me. I wanted to play football. I wanted to do sport. And like I said, I grew up being constantly told that I couldn't do things and I shouldn't be doing things. This is one of those I was told, you're going to be a mum, you can't play football and have a child.
Hmm.
You won't ever get back into the England squad. Why could I not do this?
Yeah.
I've got that drive in me, and I went out and showed people you can do it if you've got a support and that drive within yourself. And I had that drive in myself, and my family was supportive for me and gave me what I needed to be able to keep pushing myself.
And that's so important to have that supportive family unit around you, because
Yeah,
I know in my own case playing football, it was very much girls shouldn't be playing football, and that's all I really got. There wasn't really that cool. So there was a stage where I did call away from football, and I wonder how many young girls growing up that are, you know, interested in sport in general get that, and it turns them away to some degree from actually continuing in sport.
I'd assume a lot, you know. I never got drawn away because football for me, that was my get out clause. That was me to break away from reality and
Mm.
just do me. And I think that's
Mm.
why it's key, because without that, I don't know, I'd probably be going off my head. You know, you
Mm.
might as well lock me inside four walls and say you're going to be there for life,
Yeah.
because you're not able to reach out to do things that you enjoy doing. And I think once you let go of the things that you enjoy doing in life, you know, you kind of forget what life is about. You've got to be able to hold on to things that are key for you,
Yeah.
to reach out and to be you, basically, because it's so
Amazing.
easy to get sucked in to what the world wants us to be and what society claims we should be,
Yeah.
that we forget that, you know, we're all individuals. You know, each and every single one of us tick different ways,
Yeah.
you know, and although we're going in the same direction, it may just take us a bit longer than others to get there. But at the end, we're still going to get to that same road, but we've just taken different routes.
That's just so inspirational. I'm just listening and I'm just like, I want to take notes. I've got a whole podcast I could take notes after. But wow, I'm just like, wow, just wow, wow, wow. But who was your like role models growing up as
No,
footballers?
it's
Who
mad. People who say that. I get asked this all the time. I didn't have no set role. Obviously, I just grew up watching men's football, obviously.
did you
So
support? Who did you support?
um, I didn't support anyone solid, but obviously Millwall's my local team, so I'd go and watch live football down at Millwall.
Mhm.
My brother was a Liverpool supporter, so I would watch the Liverpool
A
games with
lot,
him.
a lot of Liverpool supporters in that
Telling you,
generation. Yep, yep.
obviously I'd watch the England games, any international games, I'd watch them. So I didn't have no solid person I'd proper look at, but I did have to say the Ian Wrights, the John Barnes, the Chris Waddles, the goalkeeper I know, but the Grobbers of this.
Yeah.
I used to look at these players, you know, and like
Grobbelaar, he
you'd
was
go out
crazy,
and
wasn't he? He
start
was
doing them. Yeah,
Grobbelaar did not want to be a goalkeeper. He really wanted to be a centre midfield player, didn't
yeah, you should tell. I'm a goalkeeper, and like I say to my players now, you know, the goalkeeper is the most luxurious player on the pitch, because he's the only one that can use both his feet and hands.
he? Yeah,
Once he's in his box, he's got hands and feet. Once he
yeah,
comes out, he's just you.
yeah,
And people forget that, and say that to my goalkeepers. Don't ever forget, you know, your hands reach above your head. No one
yeah,
should ever outjump you,
yeah.
and it's just key. And I'm sure all international players, keepers are told that as well, and
Yeah,
that's why
the
they're
game's moving
great.
towards that. You know, keepers that, you know, do the old school things, that just being able to kick the ball out and just save, that the game's kind of moving away from those type of keepers.
Yep, and you've got to be able to use everything and at all costs, and that's what they do. So yeah, I used to just look at all those players and see
Mm.
their little skills and try and take them and build them into mine. But I was never sucked on one player and thought I want to be like this or like that. I just wanted to play football and learn different things in it.
Mm. So you're like a student of the game, would you say?
Literally, you know, still today, I'm still learning into the game today.
Yeah,
You know, I'll be, you know, I've got to be a long time dead to stop understanding and flowing in that,
yeah.
because I think that's the only time you actually stop doing things is when you can no longer take them on board.
Mm. Absolutely brilliant, guys. I hope you're taking this in. But if we was going to summarize England, what would you say the highs of playing for England were, and the lows? So
Mm.
we'll ask
The
both.
highs, obviously, the highs of playing for England is obviously you're playing against the best players out there. You know, you're competing against the best, and you want to be up against. You don't want to be a shadow in there. You want to be on par with it. So that was key for me. I wanted to be on par, like those big strikers that I was up against. I wanted to be on par, so they didn't ever get a running on me too tough,
Mm.
and it
And
make
they
it
didn't.
even. And that's how it's got to be. You've got to know that you're doing your job to the best of your ability, and that was key for me.
Hmm.
And I do believe I've done that to a set degree. Obviously, loads have been England. Obviously, is the constant traveling, and when you've got a family,
Yeah.
you can't take them with you. And I can always remember, like when we were going to the World Cup, and the girls are asking. There's only myself and Kate Chapman at the time who had kids on the team,
Mm.
and we asked the question about taking the kids. I mean, I wouldn't have taken my kids to China; wouldn't have been for them. But we did ask the question,
Yeah.
and then we had a response like, the men pay for their own, like the men pay for their families to go." And we was just like, we don't get paid to play football. And I think
And
people forgot that we were women playing football, and it's because of the sheer love of the game and the passion of the game that drove us to play at these levels. And you're going to say to us that the men who get paid millions pay for their family and try and put us on the same brackets as them? How is that possible? It's actually laughable. Even when I think about it today, it's laughable that you could have even put us in the same bracket
yeah,
to stand around and give us that comment to say that the men pay for their own family, which they probably do.
yeah.
But when you've got millions in the bank, you can afford to do that.
You can afford to do
Whereas a
that. And
woman, you have to go to work. You've got to make sure the job you're doing is paying your bills at home, you know, paying your rent, paying your electric, gas, paying for your kids, paying for you to do your, and then you're still going to play international football. You know,
Yeah.
it just weren't looked at on an even scale.
Yeah.
But like I said, there were the low parts. But like I said, because of the unit around me, I was still able to do that. And that's not just around me. All the players that were involved obviously had a unit around them, because obviously we had to get time off work to
Yeah.
be able to go and play football as well. So our work had to understand, you know, we're at this level in our game, and it
Wow.
was a game, but we're at the top of that game, and we want to be able to go and compete internationally for our team and get that time out from work. And they gave that to us, which you got to like thank them for that. That we were able to compete and be the best we could be.
That kind of makes me angry, and what also is this weird timing, because I know you retired in 2008, and I know the
Yeah,
FA, they started awarding central contracts, didn't they? Just
yeah, yeah.
after in 2009. Would that have maybe prolonged your career a bit?
No, it didn't at all, because obviously during that tail end, like I always said, like when I was growing up, I will stop playing football when I stop the enjoyment. The love of the game just comes out of my system, and it becomes a burden on me to do that.
Yeah.
And towards that tail end, it was becoming a bit of a strain. Of my sons were growing up, I wanted to be more of a part of their life, and still doing my stuff. But I just weren't enjoying that traveling all the time, that training. Like obviously, you got for training was at like 8 till 10 in the evening. So
Yeah.
I'm getting home in the evening, then having to get up, take the kids to school, and get to work. Come and when you're doing that for a long time, what was that? 16 years of my life doing stuff like that. It's a long time.
Yeah.
So it didn't interest me, and a lot of people said to me, "But man, money's coming to the game now." And you know, I'm not a money motivated person, so it struggled. Like, yes, it's great, but you know, to get that, I've got to win that. You
Yeah.
know, I've got
And
to be selected. I've got to be an international player
yeah.
to get, and then I've got to be an international for every year to be able to get that central contract. It's not that, yeah, you play football, you get a central contract. If you weren't an international player, you ain't get a central contract, so that money don't roll in the same way. But it didn't entice me to stay in there. You know, that my love for that game on that playing level just weren't there. Obviously, I was still involved in football. I like coaching, I like playing, but that level of playing and commitment just wasn't in me anymore. So that was my time.
No, no, that's wow. So just before we pause for a break, I'm just gonna, because you kind of mentioned it there, like not being motivated by money. But you know, the women's game in this country, the WSL, was not fully professional until around about 2018. Now, Mary, playing for Fulham, you were actually one, once again, it's just history making everywhere. You were actually once one of 16 players in this country to be a
Yeah,
professional, and the actual treble winning captain of a Fulham team that won the treble.
yeah, yeah.
What was that like?
You know that is brilliant. You know, because all the players there, like we were constantly told, like yes, we were getting paid to play football, but it weren't. People think football's big money. You know, I could have earned more money working in Tesco's or McDonald's,
Yeah.
but I was getting offered to play football for a set wage, and that's what it was. I'm playing football, so I'd wake up, drop the kids to school. I'm going to go and play football. I'm training
Mm.
to do something I really enjoy, and it finishes at a reasonable time. So I'm not training 8 till 10 anymore. I'm training till like 10 till 4, 5 o'clock at the latest. I
Wow.
can get back home within an hour out push. And I've still got life. You know, at 5 o'clock when you reach home, you've still got life after work. You know, to be able to do that for 3 years was like, it was amazing
Wow.
just to be able to do that. You know, I can fully understand why people want to be able to have, imagine just being able to get up and do something you really are passionate about,
Yeah.
and that's your job. You know, it
Yeah.
hasn't got to
You
be
lived
big
your
money.
dream, Mary. To me, that's living your dream. That's not a
Oh,
job. It's like a
definitely.
vocation. Yeah.
Oh, without doubt, you know, it's not big money, but it was enough to get by. And that's like for all of us, it was enough to get by.
Yeah.
And that's what we wanted. We wanted to be able to play football and not have to do all the other scales of work to be able to do that. And us 16 that got that contract were able to go and have football as our job. And that was it. You know, that is
Wow.
amazing.
That's amazing,
It's
because
a shame.
we couldn't
that
have that dream when we first started out as young kids, being young girls, having those kickabouts with our friends. We weren't really able to have that dream of being professional footballers, in the sense that it wasn't something that was possible. So it really was just a dream. But to think that you managed to live that impossible, something that wasn't possible when you started, that became possible, and you managed to live it. But I look at you know, those 16 players and those players at the time right there as being the pioneers of the women's game, what it is now. Like you guys pushed it to where it is right now.
for here. I mean, to be fair, FA did have the plans in the pipeline for it to go widespread. Hence why our FIDE had put it down for a 3-year plan, because ideally, to our beliefs, the FA were going to kick in after those 3 years and the Women's League would have been pro. But obviously, the change round in the FA, then blueprints got put on the back burner and they didn't arise till many years later to what the women's game is now. But for us 16 that managed to live that dream for them 3 years, you know, it was an amazing 3 years without doubt.
Wow. And I can't, I'm almost reluctant to say this, but this is like so important an accolade that I have to mention it. Winning the quadruple with Arsenal. Now I'm a Tottenham supporter. This hurts. This hurts a little bit. But actually winning the quadruple with Arsenal and Mary being a Champions League winner, you won everything that there was to win at Arsenal. And in fact, when I looked at, you know, all of your accolades together, there was only a couple of years in the 2000s where you didn't win an FA Cup, or, you know, that you were winning things throughout until you stopped playing football. You were literally a winner all the way through.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That's pretty sound, you saying that. Yeah, but winning that quadruple is just, you know, it's, like I said, that because it's finished and it's over, you know, that 2007-8 season, you know, Arsenal just on a roll. You know, it was always been so near yet so far, so near yet so far. And yeah, that year it come together, and that away game with Alex scoring the away goal to put us to 1-0 ahead and ag, and then coming home and having to play at Boreham Wood. I can always remember that game being so high. And all we had to do was not lose that game, you know, just that was it, just not lose that game. And that put us up there, and that put all 4 trophies in the bag for us. And then obviously the Community Shield, which we picked up as well, you know, so we had 5 in the bag. And I've got a photograph of me at home with all 5 of them, you know, Community Shield, FA Cup, League Cup, the League, and the prestigious UEFA. It's just like, yeah, that was it. That is just like, yeah. It's a great photo. It was a great photo to have.
Like I'm smiling for you. I feel like I'm there. Like
no,
really,
it was great. I remember Arsenal done a full team picture of both the men and the women, and like you got to think, but this is a time when Arsenal were. I know you're Tottenham,
yeah.
but Arsenal were there.
I do like some of the players. They was the invincible times, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's when we done the trick, and obviously we've got all the trophies, and we're on the same grounds with the Invincibles. I've got a lovely team photo of the men's team and the women's team all merged together, but it's the women's trophies at the front.
Yes,
it's a key picture.
At the forefront, where it should be.
It was amazing. But you've got both the Invincibles and the women's quadruple side. Lovely team photo at Arsenal, men and females together. You had Wenger sitting there, and you had Vic Akers, our manager, sitting there. It's a great picture to have, without doubt. And like obviously all the Arsenal girls were the only ones within pictures. But they're definitely ones to hold on to, because they play a big part in history, without doubt.
Mary Phillip, history maker. So guys on the podcast, we're going to pause for a second. So go get yourself a drink. Mary's just going to come back on the other side, and we're going to talk about management and Peckham Town, which is something that's very current and something very passionate to her. So you guys go catch a drink. Subscribe in the meantime. You've got time. It's free. And we'll be back on the other side. Okay, so Mary, we've spoke quite in depth now about this long career. I wish I could speak to you all day, because I literally could pick your brain. But looking back, what do you think was the biggest challenge of your career, your playing career? What were the biggest challenges you faced?
The biggest challenge for me was obviously having my kids and coming back into the game, and constantly people telling me I wasn't able to do that. And then just going out and making sure I could do it with the right balance of being a mum, making sure I was a mum, making sure my kids were, but also making sure that I was able to do something I was passionate about, and getting the right balance between that. And once you got that juggle there, I had to make sure I kept it on that even level. I made sure I didn't put more into one side than the other, to make sure it was all even across, and to make sure my kids got the best of me that they possibly could. And like speaking to them today, if you could speak to them, big men now, yeah, I done a good job for them.
I love that. I love that you're owning it. I love that you're owning it. I love that you're owning it. We can't skirt away from some of the things, because one of the reasons why I wanted to do this, I wanted to kind of look at intersectionality in sport. So obviously you're a woman first and foremost, but you're also a black woman. So I'm imagining that somewhere along the line there would have been some type of prejudice. Are there any examples that you can think of? And also how you overcame it? Because you
Do
obviously
you know what?
didn't let it stop
They
you.
would be there. But like I said, growing up, like my mum and dad, they didn't let me focus on that fact,
Mm,
black, and that would be a barrier for me. If I had that drive to push forward and get over them ignorances out there, which, and it is, that's what it is,
yeah,
um, that things could happen. It would take a bit longer, but if I had the ability to sustain and push forward for it, I could get the results. And I think that has been a drive for me going forward. Yes, there's been some blocks there, there's been some walls there, but I've had to knock them down and push through. Not
yeah.
all of them down, but you know, there's ways around them. You know,
Mm,
there's ways of doing things. You know, I may not have had to. I may have to backtrack a couple of times, a couple of steps before going forward. And if that's what I had to do, then so be it. As long as I was still able to do what I was doing, I didn't let people like put them up there and keep me away from what I wanted to do.
right. That's so powerful. But you know, there's so many people that are rooting for me to bring this up. Like, not only are you a history maker in terms of like the things that you've won in your individual playing career, but you know, 65 caps for England, which is not an easy task by any means. But you know, we've mentioned that you was the first lioness to go to 2 World Cups, which again is history and is absolutely amazing. But Mary, being the first black woman to captain England, and I know from seeing you in a previous interview, you wasn't even aware that that was the case for a while.
Totally unaware of that. I was just a captain for England, and you know, I was doing something the manager has to pick a player, and they believed that I was the one who's able to go out there and do the job for them. I got given that captaincy role, and I accepted it.
Wow.
To hear that fact that I was making history at that time, accepting that was mind blowing. You know, 2003. I mean, you look, there's different dates, but 2003, Hope Powell gave me that captaincy.
Wow.
2017, when Black.
Powerful. That's powerful. Guys, for those of
I
you
like
that
the
don't
first
know
one.
who Hope Powell is, Hope Powell
Yeah,
is giving you the captaincy.
yeah. Yeah, in itself it speaks volumes, but it's not until 2017 when obviously Black history was obviously making a name for itself, and Sky Sports was doing Black history obviously within football, and that come around to me saying, did you know you was? And obviously I didn't. You know, I
Wow.
thought Hope Powell or Brenda Sampari or Kerry Davis and years before me had taken that. You know, I knew Hope had been vice captain. I didn't look into the plan of had she ever got captaincy, never knew,
Yeah.
but obviously not. And I was the first one to take ownership of that captaincy for the international squad.
And that's amazing. But guys, what I will say is that Hope Powell did go on to become the England manager, and she was the England manager for a very long time. And I think setting the standards again for what's come after. I remember becoming aware of Hope when she was in the Croydon days. So I
Yeah,
know you was talking about the Doncaster Bells. There wasn't that many women's teams. So I think a lot of them now have kind of merged because I was looking for the Millwall lionesses. Are they still there in and around
they're
about the
London Lions or something.
London? Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw that and I thought, I wonder if they've merged with someone. I thought I better ask Mary that. But to me, that is such relevant Black British history because I do think, and I see it as, you know, someone that's interested in history. I'm interested in Black history as well as all history. But seeing people like Martin Luther King and, you know, a role model of mine, Nelson Mandela, and being brought up to kind of idolize these figures, but actually a part of me not really relating to the Black American experience in the first instance, and these individuals being men that I can't really relate to. But actually, for me growing up, you being one of my role models, and how important it is to get the real Black history icons into the public forum. Like, I believe, Mary, everybody should know who you are.
I'm just a individual. All of us have a story to tell. Any person you sat down, whether it's me who's played football or the lady that's just done her shopping in Asda, you know, we've all got a story to tell. It's the people that want to hear it, and if, you know, and that is one thing definitely for me growing up. There's not much of it nowadays. I used to love sitting down. Like, you used to look at your elders, and it's
Mm,
like they used to annoy you. Don't get me wrong,
yeah.
telling you do this, do that, but at the same time,
Yeah.
the stories they had to tell you about what they had to go through,
Hmm.
I was like, oh my days, like this was their life, you know. But you're thinking that's not my life. It's not his. It's right. It's not your life, Alice, but it's what they had to go through for you to have the life that you've got now.
Yeah.
And it's understanding that. So I used to like listening to the elders as I was growing up, but you won't find many young kids now
Yeah.
that want to sit and listen to their elders, or saying that, not even elders that want to sit and talk to the youngsters now and
Yeah.
let them know like the hard life they had to live to come through for us to have the better life we have now. You
Yeah.
know, looking at football and you look at the lionesses, like the England team, you know, the path they've got coming through, like was put for them from not just the path that I played, but the players that come before me,
Yeah.
who had to play without the backing of the FA to come through, to give them a pathway to come through, for them now to be pro players,
Yeah.
playing elite football, and you know, and being professional. Now, all of us that are now getting recognised slowly but surely, you know, we've all got a story to tell, and it's
Wow.
for people to come and listen to it and actually fully understand, because we actually don't know where we're heading and to actually know where we've come from. And I don't know that full story of where I've come from, because my history stops halfway. I can't understand all of it, because
Yeah.
the part of my Black history, there's not a full one tell, because it stops.
Yeah.
You know, that's something that history's been taken from me. I don't know it. But for many out there, you know, they do know it. Especially you Caucasian, there's a history that they can go as far back as the eye can see
Yeah.
and fully understand themselves. Wherefore, as Black people, we can only go for as far back as we're allowed to, so to
Yeah.
speak,
That is
to
so,
fully
so
understand where
powerful.
we're going.
Yeah. That's so, so powerful. And that's why I think it's important to have people like you that we can look up to, Mary. Like, I cannot emphasize enough, guys. This was one of my childhood idols. Like, Mary Phillip was a defender I wanted to be even as a little bit as good, you know,
I'm
and
sure you
you,
would be. I'm sure you was.
yeah, I've got weak ankles though. I was a good athlete. I don't think I had the brain to be a footballer. My footballing brain had a lot to be desired, but it was similar. You wouldn't be able to get past me.
There you
Um,
go.
but yeah, there's just so much, and you know, I hope you're proud of yourself, Mary, because I'm proud of what you've achieved as someone not, you know, similar age group to you. So we're a similar age. Just you not even being aware that I'm looking up to you and you're inspiring me every step of the way. So
If I can encourage one person to do things, like that's the whole thing when I'm coaching. If I can inspire one person to do something right, or getting them kicking that ball straight, you know, that's 100% for me. That's, you know, that's one achievement. I've helped someone achieve something, and they will help someone achieve. And it's always a pay it forward thing. You know,
mhm.
what you do for someone, they will end up doing at some point in their life.
Yeah,
And to me, that's the continuous of life. You know, we
yeah,
all learn and do things. We're not grown this big.
yeah.
You
We
know,
weren't, like my
help
mum said, we
someone.
weren't born so big.
There you go.
We weren't born
It's
so big.
constantly heard, and so you've got to constantly grow and learn, and you've got to be open to that understanding and that learning, because like I said before, we all learn differently. We take
Hmm.
different paths to get somewhere, but if we take the time to understand it, we will get there.
We will get there. And guys, so you mentioned there just when you're coaching. So I have to say again to the podcast, Mary is a holder of a UEFA A license. So that is very high up there on that. So you can work in with senior teams, and you can work in the second tier of professional football.
Yeah.
But you know, there are like around about 10,000 women or so that have got like coaching badges. I went and got my level one, but for a lot of women, it stops at a certain point. You're like in the 1% of female coaches across Europe that has that that license. Yeah,
Oh my days.
yeah. They put you in the 1% of women across Europe.
Oh
But
wow.
yeah, Leanna likes stats. But
I
you
like
know,
these stats. Yeah.
the first woman to win a cup with a men's senior side. Now, like you said to me before we started, no one's come back at you to dispute that. And I will argue no one will, Mary,
Yeah.
because 80% of the coaches that are in as coaches of the women's game are men. So you're
Okay.
bucking the trend completely. So what's that like being manager of Peckham Town? And tell us all
You know,
about the Menace and the Menace Ultras.
being Peckham Town now, I've been a part of Peckham Town since 2000s when it started. My days at Fulham, and obviously I had a bit more time on my hands. I was professional football, so I was able to get home and do some more stuff. You know, I helped coach in the youth teams and work my way through them, especially going through. Obviously, when I stopped playing football, I got offered to do my A license when the PFA decided to do this bespoke women's license. I was like, yep, I will take that. I've always wanted to do my A license, but financially, I didn't have the money for it.
Mhm.
But when this one come around, I was able to get that done. So I was working through that, and obviously coming through, obviously you need to be working with a senior side. 11-a-side football. And although I was working with the under 16s, under 17s at Peckham, I wanted to do some of the senior side. So I spoke to the chairman there, Brian Hall, and said, look, I'm doing my A license now. Can I get some grass time with the men's team? And he's like, yeah, come along. Alan was their manager at the time.
Wow.
And I was able to get a fair bit of time on the grass with them, get some stuff done. One little drawback doing that, a year into my A license, I become ill and discovered that I had MS, which put me out for a little bit and just slowed my process of getting my A license. But once I got myself back together and got my head around the fact that I've got this long-term illness, I completed my A license. And once I'd done that, I was like to Brian, can I get on doing proper coach, like some full-on coaching and being more on board with the senior side. I had the under 18s team as well, so I made sure I was fully committed to them. I used to coach them on a Sunday, but on a Saturday I'd make myself committed to doing stuff with the men's team.
Yeah.
And then shortly after, work changed with Alan, like his preferences to work, and obviously I got offered the role at Peckham Town. You know, Brian come up to me with and said, look, Alan's moving on, would you like to do the
Proud man.
men's team? And I was just like, I've been here since like doing the youth team coming through. It's a no-brainer. Of course, I'd like to do the men's team.
Wow.
And obviously, it was a time, it was a full change around as well. So a lot of those players that had been in the club for many years, they've come to their retirement and leaving. So that's a case of rebuilding the whole squad.
Wow.
And so 2019, season 19-20, had to get a full team back in together. I think I had 2 players from the old squad still there and had to rebuild that squad. So all the training camps to get players in, because obviously grassroots football, it's not a paid venture, so players come and go as they want.
Yeah.
So we had to have trials and invite players in and then see if players want to stay. And although you may have players that come and commit, they then look elsewhere, and because they're obviously play higher field. But the 16 players that had come through, which obviously grew to like 20 players by the season starting, we went through. And although we were having a slow season, but because we was in the cups, we weren't playing as many league games. And obviously, and it was just at the time as COVID was kicking in. So we were sitting probably towards the tail end of the table. I think we'd played 14 league games, but we'd been in all the cups. And we'd played the quarterfinals of the cup game for the London Cup game. And because all the games had been played and the semi-finals had been played after COVID, and the season got called because of COVID. So we didn't get seen out. But because the semi-finals had been played and they did have the 2 finalists in there, the London FA decided that they were going to play the final at the beginning of the coming season. So that was our first game. So actually going through, getting the team, keeping the team together, ticking them over, training together. We went out on that evening and all the way to penalties to win that final. And it was it was great. It was great. And like we've got this great little core supporters. They call themselves the Menace Ultras. They're great. They're a great bunch. And then within moments of it, within a day of winning the cup, it was like, did you know they'd done all their stats? Did you know Mary was the first female to go and win a senior team? Like, really? I was like, look, and if you guys can prove that, I'm happy to take it. It's fantastic. But like I said, no one's come back in this years. And so, for Peckham Town being a women's coach of a senior to men's team.
Wow.
You know, what is that men's team? You know, got to say the men are fantastic. They don't care that I'm a female. They care the fact that I understand football. I know it's about, you know, I know it's not an easy roll down. I know things change in the game that can disrupt everything you've put in training. And as long as I can see things around that and understand that, that is what they're about. They want to go and play football to the best of their ability. I want to be able to go out there and help them to get the best out of them. And it's working. You know, I'm still there, and it's like each year it's been like, it's a roller coaster. You know, people come in and out all the time. It's a case of rebuilding. I'm hoping one season just to get up a level. You know, we're step 7. If we could get to step 6, we've got more chance of keeping players on hand because a lot of players go and play step 6. But facilities are kind of letting us. Oh, we're hoping to get there. You know, obviously it's a dream of Brian's, obviously, to one day if he could get a team to the bars. That would be amazing, and I'd love to be a part of that. But just to be part of Peckham Town, helping that team grow still, that senior side grow. You know, I'm still hands in with the younger side. That I've just started doing the under 11 girls team there. You know,
that's brilliant. You know, that is I
It,
wanted to say that to you. Grassroots girls football and being involved, and
yeah.
that would be so, so important to them.
No,
Wow.
grassroots for me, it's the heart and soul football. You're not born a professional player. You're not born into the Premier League.
Yeah.
It starts on the sand, it starts on the grass, on the gravel, and it's just moments in life. People seeing something that others aren't seeing that pulls you through, and then it's got to be your determination, your attitude, your belief that helps you the rest of the way. Because
Yeah.
if your attitude stinks, your beliefs not right, and you just haven't got that will to want enough,
Yeah.
that dream falls apart for you. But if it's in the right in the right format for you, and you can do the things in the right place, it works, and you can get yourself free there. Because like I always say, it's one thing getting there, it's a total different skill staying there, because
Mm.
you can do just slip up just that once, say the wrong thing, whatever. You could be in a situation where you're in a bad challenge, a bad tackle, that could end that career for you.
That's the end of career.
Never ever come back the same.
Mm.
And it's mad how it works. But for me, touch wood, I've been fortunate
Yeah.
on that front, and it's just the way things are working, and obviously a lot of self-drive. I think you've got to have things. Life isn't easy for anyone,
Yeah.
and I think people will put you down at all costs. There's always someone that will pick you up, and there's always someone that will put you down. But you've got to know you first and foremost.
Yeah.
I'm my own worst critic, without doubt. I know the best things about me. I know the poor things about me, and I'm thinking some of the things that I'm thinking, oh my days, that shouldn't even be about me, but it is
Yeah.
me. I've got to take ownership of that, and that's got to be me. That's me representing,
Yeah.
but people only see what they want to see sometimes.
And that,
But as long as you can be honest with yourself, and you've got a great amount of integrity about you, you stand out. You can stand out for yourself. And it's not about other people. What other people see me and think of me, that's down to them. I can't
yeah.
change it for them. But I've got to know within my heart, within my soul, I'm doing the right thing
And
for me, about
that's what
me,
integrity is. It's
and
about
I'm putting it
doing that.
out,
When
and I'm
that
putting it out
when
for other people, and people can see that. Now people can tell a bullshit around a mile off. They can tell people who've got great, doing the right thing. They know
yeah,
people that are being honest. And I think I'd like to be that. I'd like to, you take me as you see me, basically.
yeah,
I don't want to be no different than that. I don't ever want to paint a picture of me being something other than who I am. And I
absolutely.
think throughout my life, I've been able to do that. And I want to continue doing that. I don't think to change me on that. What you see is what you get, basically. And I'm not going to paint you a pretty picture for you to come back later and think, oh, my days, that old painting, that's water painting, get rid of that one. You know what I'm saying to you? You've got to see me for what it is. And
The realness. This
yeah,
is the Peckham coming through. But Mary, you said something so powerful there, and you touched on it. But I've got a quick quote here, and it says, "Until I get to a point where it stops me in my footsteps and literally refuses to let me do anything, I am going to keep going as much as I can. I want to keep proving to myself that I can do things." So you mentioned there, in 2017 being diagnosed with MS. What was that time like, and
oh my God.
what's your journey been to becoming the MS ambassador that you are today?
So I'm not even gonna lie. If you were speaking to me back then, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I couldn't talk about it. It was just
Mm,
like I've been an international player. I'm this most physical, up and lively person. I love to get my hands on everything, and I've got this illness that stops me from doing that. From the start of the illness, now I was unaware of what it was. Like my eyesight was going a bit funny. I'm thinking, oh, it's just one of those things. I'm a bit tired or whatever.
mm,
And I continued with it. Then we had a breakthrough. So I took myself to the doctors, who referred me to the hospital, who referred me to staying here for a few weeks, whatever,
yeah,
to find out what was going on with me, to getting the diagnosis of having MS. It's just like it froze you. I'm not gonna lie. And anyone who's been diagnosed with MS, it froze you, because it's not something you hear about on a daily basis. You don't know the tales of it. But one thing that I've learned from it is that there's no two people out there with MS who has had the same journey.
yeah,
It's all been different. But the one thing we could all probably relate to is that it does stop us in our tracks. It does disable us at some point. It does stop us doing things that we thoroughly enjoy doing, and we have to check and rethink things through, and like find pathways to find things
yeah,
doing it again. Like I said, I lost like it was momentarily throughout a day, but several times that day, like I'd lose full ability of my right side, and it's crazy. I can always remember walking down the road with my partner, and I was just like, and I could just feel the tingling in my arm go,
Yeah.
felt my face drop, and I then couldn't move my right side, and he just had to hold me up, and I can't forget
Wow.
looking his face, because the sheer fact that you can't help this person, all you can do is support them right now so they don't fall, and this is a minute for that to bypass and for me to get the full movement, but not full movement, but just to be able to be stabilized again and be able to stand.
Yeah.
You know, it takes a lot from you to think, oh my days. And then you start playing games like, what have I done in my life? You know, what did I do?
Mm.
Something you've done that
The
has enabled this.
bargaining.
Yeah.
The
No,
bargaining.
how is this? Yeah. Have you not noticed this before? You know, but it's just part of your life. Like if I was to track it back, like I still look at things now. Even back to my playing days, I can remember a point when I was at England training, and I had to take myself out of training because I was having pains in my hamstring, and
Mm.
my physio told me it's neural, you'll be okay. But I'm like, I've got serious pain here, I can't move. And she's like, oh, you'll be all right. And I took myself out of training, and I got in trouble for doing that. But the psychologist, the only person that would listen to me, I was like, look, when this happens to me at home, I take a couple of days to myself and I'm back to normal. But I didn't
Yeah.
know I had an illness. To me, I was just overworking my body, and I
Yeah.
needed a few days to myself.
Wow.
Um, but obviously, when I looking back at it, that was obviously onset stuff to what was to come for me.
Yeah.
So getting diagnosed with MS, and yeah, that journey, getting through it, getting to the other side, being open about it and actually understanding it. And it actually comes down to the fact that I've got to be open to the fact that I have this illness. You
Yeah.
know, it's a part of me. It's not something that's going to go away. I'm not going to wake up tomorrow and it's gone.
But it's like
It's
a
a part
grieving process, isn't it? It's almost like a grieving process. You
of
mentioned
that doubt.
bargaining. Yeah.
That doubt, you know, you've got to allow yourself, you know, this is a part of you. You know, it's going to come and go. There's going to be parts of my life where it's going to go, it's going to come back. You know, it's going to go. It can come back, it can stay, it can get worse. I've got no control how that happens. You
Mm.
know, when it comes, how long it comes for, if it goes away, if I get full ability back, if it gets worse, you know, if
Mm.
it progresses to secondary, I've got no control of that. The only thing I've got control of right now is me and how I can cope with that. And that was mentally, I had to get my head around the fact that I've got this illness and I've got to learn to live with it and get my way and take it on myself, understand it, and do what I can with it. And like you said there, my statement was until it actually fully stops me in my strides, like it did when I had my major relapse, and
Yeah.
it stopped me from moving. You know, when it stopped my right side from moving, and I literally had to stop until I got myself back together. I will keep going. And to me, that's been my
Absolutely
mentality to
amazing.
keep me moving forward. Because if I stop and let it take over, will I continue in the same way? But if I
Yeah.
keep trying to move forward with it, I've just got to see where it takes me. And so that for me, that's my mentality. So I keep moving forward with it. Yes, I have little relapses. I've not had no major ones since the big one.
Mm.
Um, I'm hoping it doesn't come around. Obviously, I do take a um, disease modification drug to try and to slow it down. It doesn't stop
Mm.
it because there's no drug out there to stop
Yeah.
MS, but it does slow down the progression of it. Um, and you just take that each day as it comes, and you just keep moving forward with it. And it's having that mentality that I know some days are going to be worse than others. But I think if I keep my mentality right and don't let that drop too much, there's always a way forward for me.
Yeah. And I think that's absolutely amazing. So I hope anybody listening that has any chronic illnesses, because I've been speaking about this throughout my journey on this podcast. I have Graves' disease. My mum and sisters suffering from arthritis and fibromyalgia, any kind of long-term illness that, it can involve periods of depression. So it's about not being hard on yourself and about taking each day as it comes. And you said, Mary, just being aware that sometimes it's going to stop you, but just
Yeah.
knowing that, as long as you're able to continue, you will. So how important do you feel like it is being active for your mental health? How important is being active for you?
For me, being active is everything for me. You know, it's been my way of life, always being active. You know, whenever I've been down, I've always got up and done something. You know, go for a run, go for a swim, jump on my bike. You know, from when I was a kid, I always had a bike. Just going for a bike, I just keep myself ticking over because you're using your body then. You know, you're using
Yeah,
your mind. You've got to stay alert. And I think just to be able to tick yourself through, and I think if you can keep your mind ticking, you can keep everything else ticking. You know that trick when they say when you're running, if you keep your arms moving, your legs
yeah,
move.
yeah, yeah,
If I can keep my brain moving to a point, everything else
yeah,
can move with me as well.
yeah,
You know, right or wrong, that's how it works for me. I'm not saying it can work for everybody, but if that's what works for me, then why am I going to let go of it? Until I find
Love
something else
that.
that works for me, I've got to hold on to that one. And that is key.
Love
But
that.
yeah, just keeping yourself going. And I think just in little walks, no one tells you've got to be physical. You haven't got to drive yourself into the ground to exhaustion.
Yeah.
You know, just going out for that little 10-minute walk can be as slow as you want,
Yeah.
as quick as you want. Just doing that little walk and just taking that fresh air and looking at the things around you, actually
Yeah.
taking time to notice the
Mindfulness.
world around you. You know, how
100%.
often do you go out, you walk past the same road all the time, and then one day you notice, wow, there's lights there. I never noticed them there before.
Yeah.
But that day you notice them, that's a changing point for you because you've acknowledged something they're not been new there, they've been there all the
Yeah.
time, but you just stopped and acknowledged there's things around you that you don't always take
Yeah.
in. So
Yeah. And that's mindfulness. And that's very important in keeping you in the present. Because you know, some
yeah,
people when they're depressed, it's kind of like you're focused on the past. And when you're in a state of anxiety, you're thinking too far ahead into the future. But
yeah,
like you say, just taking those little timeouts and being mindful of the things you have around you. Like Mary, I can't say how much I've gotten from this podcast. I'm like totally in awe. Like I think the only thing I would ask you just to top this off and to finish this off is what would you say to a 10-year-old Mary? I'm interested. What would you say to her?
just be you, man. Don't let somebody change you, literally, because I had so many people out there wanting to change me from being that little 10-year-old climbing walls,
Hmm.
getting into mischief, getting your clothes dirty, hating wearing skirts and coming home with them thick and mud and all bruised up. Don't change who you are, you know, to be someone you're not going to be because you're going to find a way back to being you. And you know, you're never, ever going to be able to get that time back that you wasted trying to be someone you're not. So
Oh, that's
I would tell 10-year-old Mary, stay true to yourself and be you. And
no.
it's taken me to 47-year-old Mary, and I'm not knocking it.
Oh wow. I'm literally just gonna finish this off the same way I started it and just say I can recall growing up, I was always told you shouldn't be doing this and you shouldn't be doing that. And girls can't do this and girls shouldn't be doing that. And you're never going to be able to do that. And I was like, I can, I want to, and I can. And I will say to you, Mary, you did. And you're an inspiration
Thank you.
to so many people. Me, and I'm sure after listening to this podcast, so many other people. Thank you so much for giving me your precious
It's been
time and
great
coming on
chatting
this
with you,
pod
man.
and
Not a problem.
sharing.
Getting to you as always, man.
And hold me to it. I'm gonna take you out for dinner, you and Bianca, and yeah, we'll
You've got
continue.
to come down to one of the games. We've got a
Yes,
list
I've
of
got definitely. I'm
them.
gonna bring my nephew. I'm gonna get some. We're gonna support, and I want to try to get involved if I can in some way, with the therapist stuff. If there's any kind of young people I can help, but you know, just come down and support. Be one of the Menace Ultras.
That'd be cool, man. Yeah, just get down and be like, hey, this is Lee. Oh, give her a
Yeah,
big shout out
you're
there.
just on Dulwich Common there, isn't it? I go past it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just in comment. So just check the
I was
website.
too
Don't turn up.
starstruck. I was too starstruck. That's the reason why you haven't seen me, Mary. I can tell. I can be honest now. I was too starstruck, but I feel like now just doing this podcast has broken the ice.
No,
I'm like,
man, we're just people.
yeah, I know. But you know, like when you genuinely have someone that you look up to, and then you meet that person, and they're even nicer than you could imagine they would be. Because
Oh, thank you.
that's not always the case with people. You meet people that you look up to, and you think, wow, that's just kind of really spoilt it. But you know, you're everything that I imagined you would be and more. And you are an inspiration to so many people, little boys and little girls.
Oh,
And
thank you.
I just want to get this story out to as many people, Mary, and just let them know how amazing you are. And I feel like for Black British history, we should be hearing Mary's story. The first Black woman to captain England. That will never be taken away from you, Mary.
God, that is, you know what? That is one proud moment I've got. Like my granddaughter, when she's old and grey, and she can, you
Yeah,
look back in the history books, she can
yeah,
say, "That's my nan. She was
yeah,
part of that." You know?
yeah,
Right, it's crazy from going to a park. I can remember my son being in school and him getting told, your mum don't play football, your mum can't be playing for England. And he coming home distraught and I had to go to the school and say, yeah, well, I do actually play for England. And I do, to go into history when his daughter will be going and saying, my nan
yeah.
done all this. And it's
My nan was Mary Phillip. End of conversation. Shut down.
happy, happy
Born and
smiles.
raised in Peckham, doing Peckham proud, man.
Oh,
Big up yourself, Mary.
thank you very much, Lee. And yourself, man.
Yeah, a
Great
credit
stuff
to
you're doing
yourself
there. I
and your
hope the
family.
podcast goes out to enough and touches home to many people. You
I'm
know,
trying to
there's a lot of
ting.
people out there that need to be able to tell a story and for all of us to hear it.
Yeah, man. I'm trying to think. It's not going to be through want of trying. And you just listening to you has inspired me because sometimes you're doing something that you're passionate about, but you know, sometimes you feel like, am I gonna get where I need to get with this? But it's persevering and realizing that you can't stop just because you're tired. That's not a good enough reason. You have to
Can't
continue if you're passionate about
just
something.
just keep knocking them doors down. Like even if you just get through to two people, that's two
Yeah,
people that you never reached before.
yeah,
You know, there's their margins. So, and
yeah,
that's what we work on every day. We work on margins.
yeah. And yeah, Mary will tell you to subscribe.
Subscribe 110% always. Just click it, pass it on, and get your friend to
Yeah, it's
subscribe. And
free.
get your friend to
Subscribe, man.
subscribe. There we go. Bring on there.
But this is the first, South London link up. Mary Phillip, thank you for everything you've given to football, and I just
You're
hope
welcome.
it can give you back some of what you've given to it. So
Oh, it has and more without doubt. It has and more.
lovely.
It's cool. Cool
Thank you.
stuff. Great chatting with you. You have a
No,
lovely
it's
evening, and
lovely chatting
we'll
with
chat
you,
again at
Mary.
some point.
Yeah. So, guys, we're going to leave you. I'm just going to have a quick chat with Mary off camera. But thanks for joining me on the Alphabet podcast, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks.